Hi magic lovers, it's Tracy Partridge-Johnson back with another reading from my book, The Golden Telescope, book 1 in my middle grade fantasy fiction series, Jack and the Magic Hatmaker. Sorry about the glare there. There you go. Before I start reading today, I would like to take a moment to ask you to please go ahead and subscribe to my channel if you like my story and would like to receive notifications every time I upload new content. You'll need to tick the little bell in order to get those notifications. And I invite you to subscribe to my channel for more. I'll be reading chapters every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Today, I'm going to read you, I'm calling these episodes because sometimes the chapters are quite short and I'm not exactly sure how many chapters I'll be reading. I think I'll read at least 2 chapters today in episode 3. If you haven't had a chance to listen to episodes 1 and 2 before this, you'll want to go back and do that. And then I invite you to share this with anyone that you know who also loves magic and mystery and a good story. That said, here we go. Chapter 3, Ethan. Dublin, Ireland, 5 years later. Arthur watched his master work, an expression of awe and wonder spreading across his face. The truth was, the hat was a little too cool to suit Arthur's taste. It reflected the style of a much younger generation and would look foolish on his own middle-aged head. He was thankful then that he would only need to carry this one to its intended recipient, Ethan MacPayden. Sir Edward was obviously pleased with his creation as he gazed upon it, making the last few adjustments and alterations, ensuring it was crafted with the precision this hat in particular deserved. More of a cap than a hat, each unique creation was designed to be an ideal reflection of the wearer's personality. In this case, a glossy, black leather-looking thing with a long bill and snap back. Both gentlemen were confident it would suit a 13-year-old's fashion sense perfectly. "You see," Sir Edward began, "the inclusion of the wearer's DNA does more than simply enable us to locate them." He paused as he lifted it off the hat form, turning it this way and that to make sure it was well balanced. "It's almost as though the magical energy I'm using is able to tap into each individual's character traits and perform much of the work of creation and design for me. In this case, the color, for instance, was predetermined by the inclusion of a snippet from the lock of Ethan's hair you collected for me all those years ago. I'm sure it will be a perfect fit for my grandson's head." He turned to face the butler, lifting the hat into the beam of light from the lamp overhead, allowing the sheen of the leather to shift under his fingertips. "Beautiful work, sir, as always," Arthur said, standing ready with his own rather plain-looking brown felt hat in hand. "I can hardly contain the excitement I feel as I anticipate meeting Ethan for the first time, Artie." Edward gazed lovingly down at the hat, admiring it as he often did before entrusting one of his creations to Arthur's care. "But let's not forget the immense danger involved in this mission. You must not risk getting caught. And to ensure your safety, I insist you promise me that you will remain hidden at all times, with your hat firmly on your head, until you are absolutely certain the moment is right to reveal yourself to the boy." Arthur gently took the cap from Sir Edward's hands. "I give you my word, sir. Believe me, I have no interest in being captured by those people. I will not gamble with this opportunity to rescue Ethan and transport him safely back to you." Sir Edward continued to eye the hat in his butler's hands before shifting his gaze to Arthur's face. "You have the photo?" Arthur turned his own hat over to reveal a photograph of Ross and Faith, 3 bright-eyed children standing in front of them, tucked neatly into the band. "Yes, sir. I expect that should be evidence enough for the young man to believe I am who I say I am and accompany me." "I certainly do hope so," Edward said, as he patted Arthur on the sleeve and stepped back a bit. "All right, then. No sense dilly-dallying. Best be on your way. Do complete your task and return home to me as quickly as possible. I will be tracking your location on the globe while you're away, just to be sure." "Certainly, sir." With Ethan's cap firmly grasped in his left hand, Arthur placed his own hat on his head with the right and immediately disappeared from Edward's view. "We'll be seeing you soon, master. Wish me luck," the voice said out of nowhere. "The very best of luck." And Edward swept the space where Arthur had been standing with both hands, just to make sure he was actually gone. Chapter 4. Eaves Dropping. Salt Lake City, Utah. "Why am I supposed to care?" Ethan asked, glaring indignantly at the man standing in the doorway, posing as his father. "This has nothing to do with me." He turned his attention to the glowing blue ring on the man's right hand. "That's where you're wrong, son. It has everything to do with you." Thaddeus crossed the room to sit on the bed next to the angry 13-year-old. Thaddeus O'Brien could see so much of himself in this kid. Tall for his age and muscular, with thick, wavy black hair he wore almost down to his shoulders. His piercing, sapphire blue eyes were framed by long lashes that any woman would envy. He was self-confident and defiant, with no respect for authority. Kind of amazing that the boy wasn't his biological child, because Ethan seemed, in so many ways, like a chip off the old block. And that was part of what worried him. Thaddeus knew what a handful he, himself, had been as a teenager, and he didn't have the powers and abilities that Ethan had. It was into this scene that Arthur materialized, invisible to Ethan and Thaddeus. He stood, quietly observing the two, from his position in the far corner of the room. "I don't give a rat's tail about some stupid cult who wants to use my abilities to their advantage." Ethan picked up a cell phone from the nightstand and began swiping his fingers across the screen. "You should give a rat's tail," countered Thaddeus. "These people have immense power and influence in the world. They can get you things that most regular people don't even dream of." Thaddeus watched the boy pause over his phone. They both knew that Ethan's abilities would not be easily bought. And though Ethan would not name a price, curiosity is what led him to glance up. "What kind of things?" Ethan asked, his voice deceptively light. Thaddeus smiled. "Anything you can imagine, really. Cars, clothes, houses, boats, jewels, which means girls. Whatever you want." Thaddeus tried to keep from sounding like he was bribing the kid. "Yeah, okay, that sounds all nice and good, but..." He looked up again, suspiciously squinting his eyes in the older man's direction. "What do they want from me in return? What do I have to do for them?" Thaddeus paused, licking his lips, allowing his gaze to wander across the bedspread. "Not that much, really," he finally said. It was a white lie. "They want to consult with you from time to time, have you peek into a few specific individuals' thoughts and provide certain insights. That's pretty much it." With each word spoken, he watched Ethan's face to see how he would respond. Cold, Hard, unfeeling. That's how he responded. Ethan sat there, his piercing gaze looking right through Thaddeus for at least a full minute before speaking. So, let's say I was interested. I need more details before I'd be willing to sell my soul to the devil, you know. How does this work? Ethan stood and walked to the window overlooking a large, well-manicured lawn. I will make contact and let them know you want to learn more. Thaddeus spoke to Ethan's back. They will then schedule a visit with you, your mother, and They will then schedule a visit and you, your mother, and I would make the trip to Sweden. They will wine you and dine you and show you the kind of lifestyle they can provide. By the time a week or so goes by, you will be free to decide for yourself whether you want to participate or not. There was a moment of silence before Ethan responded. That guy down there wants to punch his best friend in the face. He found out he's been secretly dating his girlfriend. Ethan said, almost absent-mindedly, then turned around to face his uncle once again. Sometimes I really hate that I can read people's thoughts. So what if I decide I don't want to participate? What then? Are you trying to tell me those freaks with all this power won't mind if I don't go along with their plans? Doesn't seem bloody likely to me. The boy was no idiot. That was a given, considering his powers. And as he stood, daring Thaddeus, as he often did, to counter his suspicions, the older man stared back, silent, thinking. Thaddeus knew he would have to make the proposition sound enticing enough to draw him in. A taste of the lifestyle the dark cabal could offer was usually all it took for someone to devote their life to the cause. Let's just say it would be in your best interest to go along with their program, as outlined. He glanced briefly at Ethan, then looked away and continued. But keep in mind that these people view you as a kind of rock star, if you will. A superhero of sorts. So, not only will you be treated very well, you will also gain access to people, places, and experiences that are beyond measure. You'd have to be a fool to reject their offer. Ethan pursed his lips thoughtfully, considering his response. What's the timeline on this gig? Are we talking short term, long term? Do they just need me for a couple of things and then I'm on my own? Or what? I need security, you know. What about college and a job? Are you saying this could be a career move for me? He wandered over to his dresser, coming too close for comfort to where Arthur was standing, invisible and motionless, before picking up a small, framed photo, then returning to his bed. Arthur almost let out an audible sigh of relief, but restrained himself. He continued to observe the young man and the older gentleman from his position in the far corner of the room, as he had been since materializing only minutes earlier. A fly on the wall, and nothing more. Seated again next to his uncle, Ethan looked down at the picture. Thaddeus glanced over, noticing last season's youth football team. Players all lined up in their uniforms following the victory game. In the center of the front row was Ethan, taking a knee and holding a brown and orange helmet in his left hand. Life is about choices and compromises, Ethan, Thaddeus stated flatly, and power, the accumulation of personal power. There is no reason you have to give up your schooling, sports, and social activities if you don't want to. But you will need to be trained to control your abilities and use them judiciously. That is another thing the cabal will offer you. He stood and looked down at the boy, whose eyes remained plastered on the photo on his lap. I can help with that too, Thaddeus added, as an afterthought. There are things you don't know about me, Ethan. Things I've been wanting to share with you. Now that you have become familiar with the magical energy you possess, we will be an unstoppable force together, you and I." Thaddeus walked to the door, turning to face his nephew with his hand on the brass door handle. "I need your decision soon. Take tonight to think it over, but these are people of action with a mission to fulfill. They have made it clear that they are anxious to move forward aggressively. Let me know by tomorrow what you'd like to do." With the click of the latch, Ethan sat the photo on the nightstand and was once again scrolling through his phone. "You can come out now. I know you're there," he stated matter-of-factly, glancing up to where Arthur stood, cloaked in the corner. Arthur froze, completely taken off guard. He knew the boy had certain magical powers, though he hadn't expected Ethan would be able to sense his presence in the room so easily. He contemplated remaining where he was, hidden and silent, allowing the boy to convince himself he was mistaken. But of course, all Ethan would have to do to confirm his suspicion would be to walk over, reach out, and touch him. There was no getting around it. Slowly, he reached up and removed the hat from his head, revealing himself to the lad before him. Ethan's eyebrows raised, though more as an indication of underwhelm than shock. His eyes flicked down to the brown cap that Arthur now held in his hand. "Who are you?" Ethan asked. "One of those freaks my dad was talking about, I'm guessing?" "Well, no, actually, not one of those freaks," Arthur responded, and he chuckled involuntarily. However, when he saw no sign of amusement in the boy's face, he quickly cleared his throat and continued. "I do understand why you would think that, Master Ethan, since I have been standing here, hidden from view. But I can easily calm your mind on the issue." He reached down and unpinned the photo from inside the hat. Then he held it out in front of Ethan. "Here, I have this for you." "What's that?" the boy asked indignantly. "And why do you talk so funny?" Ethan glanced at the photo, but made no motion to reach for the offering. "It's your family. You with your family. Your mom and dad, your father and mother, with your little brother and sister. It was taken not long before your parents were killed." Something flashed behind Ethan's expression, prompting Arthur to add, "Your father used to carry the original of this photo inside his military hat." Ethan still showed no indication that he intended to remove the photo from Arthur's hand, but he did, at this news, look down and briefly study the image with some interest. Then, just as quickly, he visibly recoiled. "Why should I believe you? You still haven't even told me who you are and what you're doing here, hiding in my bedroom, eavesdropping on my private conversations." Ethan shot up off his bed, skirted wide around Arthur, and made a move for the door. "What are you doing?" Arthur asked in an urgent but hushed tone. "I'm getting my dad. What do you think I'm doing? You're some kind of nut job." "Please don't. I'm here to help you. Your grandfather sent me," Arthur blurted out. That stopped Ethan cold in his tracks, his fingers leaving the door handle. As he slowly turned, his expression of anger replaced with one of intense, burning confusion. "My grandfather? What do you mean?" "Your grandfather, Sir Edward. He has been waiting for your magical powers to awaken so that we could locate you." Arthur was talking rapidly now, trying to convey as much information as he could in as short a time as possible. "Your aunt and uncle, along with that group of so-called freaks you referred to, have been keeping you hidden from him ever since your parents were killed." Ethan inhaled deeply. Then, puffing his chest out, he stood tall and erect. A sardonic smirk turned his mouth up at the corners, and his brilliant blue eyes squinted with new insight. "I can read your mind, you know. You do know that, don't you? Ethan's tone was harsh, cynical, and he spoke the words under his breath, threateningly. You want to kidnap me, to take me away from my home and parents. And just like those other freaks, you need me. Ethan was getting louder, and Arthur's eyes flicked to the door, then to the window. Please be quiet, Master Ethan, he begged. You are in grave danger from these people. You don't understand. Sir Edward and I want to protect you. Ethan scoffed. Protect me? You're the person I need protecting from. Dad! Dad! He opened his bedroom door and began shouting into the hallway. Arthur had no other choice. With one last look at Ethan, he quickly put his hat back on his head, pressed the small button on the underside of the brim, and vanished. And that's the end of episode 3 for today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you're enjoying the story. I will be back on Friday to read another episode, which will begin with Chapter 5, The Telescope, which takes place in Portland, Oregon in present day. Again, if you have enjoyed this reading, I hope that you will subscribe to my channel and tick the little bell so that you get notifications every time I upload new content. Thanks so much for taking the time to listen with me. This is Tracy Partridge-Johnson, author of Jack and the Magic Hat Maker. I look forward to joining you again on Friday. Take good care.